In the last message, we discussed transcending the flesh. Today, we will continue that discussion and talk about transcending the carnal mind. When you and I were born again, our spirit was instantly changed. But God left two other parts untouched. That is, your body and your soul. They were not dealt with. But God's command and expectation is for you to put the flesh to death by denying it what it feeds on. If you don't feed something, it will die by starvation. Now, the problem is that most Christians continue feeding the flesh. We feed the flesh with television, secular music, movies, secular comedy, social media, and a million different other things. For those in America, as you know, we are in the holiday season, Thanksgiving and Christmas. These are actually my favorite holidays of the year. But I used to really struggle during this time. Ask me why. I used to struggle during this time of year and at other points in the year as well because I would stop doing the things I knew to do. During the holidays, I would let my hair down, as it were, and watch a bunch of TV. I would also stay up later than I should. Now, that used to be a recipe for disaster for me because the later I would stay up watching television, the more ungodly shows would be on. So now, not only have I stayed up too late, which means I won't be able to get up on time for my appointment with God, but in addition, I've also watched a bunch of stuff on TV which feeds the flesh. And to top it all off, I've also watched some things that I shouldn't have, and now I feel condemned by the devil. Do you see how this works? It took some time, but I learned a very important lesson in all this. This lesson is both simple and very difficult at the same time. The solution is simple because it's not complicated at all. But it's difficult because the flesh doesn't want to hear it or do it. So what I learned is that I have to die to the desires of the flesh. So instead of letting my hair down and changing my routine of going to bed at a certain time so I can get up in the morning for my appointment with God, I had to say no to extra TV and staying up late. In essence, I had to say no to the fleshly things that I used to do during the holidays. Now, you may struggle like I did with carnality, but if you will do the same things that I did and simply say no to the things that your flesh enjoys, you will put it to death and you'll be able to focus or set your mind on the things of the Spirit. Again, this is the area where most believers mess up. You see, if the road that you are on allows you to do everything that you did before you were born again, you are on the wrong road. Serving God will cost you. If your flesh is comfortable, you aren't doing something right. You see, there were many difficult decisions that I had to make in order to get to the point where I am now. Not that I've arrived, mind you. But I remember when God told me to fast basketball during the first successful championship run of my hometown Detroit Pistons. Now, you have to understand, I was a basketball fanatic, which probably is why God told me to put this on the altar. The hardest part of all this, though, was making the decision. But once I made the decision, God gave me a grace, and I simply disengaged from it. Of course, you may know my team went on to win the championship that year. And that year, I never watched one game of basketball. But do you have any idea what came from that? Well, my carnal mind was broken as it relates to not only basketball, but sports in general. Whereas before, I rushed home after church to get in front of the TV to watch sports. Now I could take it or leave it. This meant that on Sundays I was more engaged in spiritual things and was able to walk in the Spirit without being addicted to sports. Now, let me say, I'm not saying that sports are sin, although it can be, but I'm simply saying that this is what God required of me. What he requires of you may be very different, but this enabled me to transcend my carnal mind, enabling me to walk in the Spirit and put the flesh to death.